Welcome back, everyone. So we're going to continue. If you don't remember, my name is Diane Masherpenti, and this is...
I'm Jess Maitland. We're with Ellington Youth Services.
So in the last video, we were talking a lot about the brain and how the brain works and how it sets up everything for our bodies, how to react to anxiety. So if you remember, we talked about the amygdala. Amygdala sends a signal out, an automatic response. So we're going to be talking about the 5 automatic responses that we have here on the board and ways that our bodies react so we can have a greater understanding.
Right, so this is after that signal is sent out, all those hormones are rushing through. Obviously it's normal that now our bodies are going to do something with all those new signals and all those new hormones.
Excellent.
The most common reactions to those hormones and to that stress response that happens during anxiety are fight, flight, freeze, faint, and fidget, or fooling around.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I'll start with the fight one, which is quite obvious. Now, these are sort of like defense mechanisms, ways that we protect ourselves. And they are, because remember, it's part of the very old part of our brain, Jurassic. Every human being and animal actually has a self-defense mechanism, something how they react to defend themselves to keep themselves safe. Because this is what we're talking about when anxiety comes up, it's saying something is wrong in the world. So for some people, and this doesn't mean that you always react and fight or you're always going to react and faint. It does change. So that's why it's important to have knowledge of all of them, because sometimes it's a little bit of all. So fight mode is just like the word said. Your body gets all muscle tensed up. It's sort of getting ready, and people can lash out. They might actually get into fights. They do verbal yelling. They get angry, and they're ready. So like the fists are usually clenched. The fighters are ready to take it on, and they're going to do whatever they can to conquer what's happening.
It's kind of like, I heard this analogy recently, and I liked it, where if you are in the woods, you run into a bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than, I don't know, millions of years ago with
Native
American.
Yeah.
Right. So you run into a wild animal, you're gonna respond to fight.
Yes.
For some people, for all of us, or just certain times, that reaction's gonna happen.
Right.
You're gonna fight.
And now remember, this is a reaction to our anxiety. For some people, that's why they kind of go like, why am I having this reaction when I'm just nervous about taking a test?
Yeah.
You know, so it's not the wild bear, but it's a test taking or public speaking or something that you're sort of anxious about, but your body's still reacting that way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then, same thing, same reaction. All our brains do are sending the signals. Your body doesn't really know what the signal is, or what the situation is. All your body knows is that it got the signal.
Right. And
for some, it's flight. So, same thing. You are in a situation where anxiety comes up, where your brain has said, this is an anxious situation. Your body's gonna flight. And that's when you take off, avoidance, procrastination, you're not gonna tackle this situation.
Right. You're out of here.
Yes, pretty much.
You're gone. See you later.
Absolutely.
Our third one, freeze. So this is sort of like the shutdown. Using the bear analogy, this is sort of like the possum. The possum's natural response to survival when something is danger is they freeze, and it's called play dead. So with us humans, we don't actually lay, well, some people might. You might lay on the ground, but for some others, it's where you just don't respond, you just sort of zone out. There's just like a frozen shutdown. I don't want to feel anything, deal with anything, or do anything.
Like if you just freeze, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And pretty similar, there's faint.
Well, in here, this is where it gets confusing. I think they just created this to make the 5 Fs.
Oh, okay.
Dissociation.
Okay.
That's the key word for this one.
Okay, then you do this one.
Yep. Okay, so with faint, the word that they have actually underneath it, and I don't have it here, it's dissociation.
Okay.
I really do think they did it for the 5 Fs.
I mean, of course, it's too good to be true.
Okay, so Dissociation means that you're functioning, but you separate yourselves from your emotions, from that anxiety. So you are functioning, but you're not acknowledging what is happening, the freaking out, the anxiety, the depression, whatever's feeling, that's separate. And you're just sort of going through the motions in life.
Right. Yeah, you're not fully there.
Right. So like for me, and I have a fear of public speaking. So I actually exhibit this sometimes where in order for me to actually public speak, I disassociate from the anxiety. I'm like so anxious like before. I'm like, I don't want to do this, red-faced and sweaty and everything else. And then I get up there and I start talking, and I don't remember what I said when it's done.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, that was great, Dan, good job. And I'm like, thank you. I have no idea what I just did.
Yeah.
Okay. And I honestly don't remember what I did. So that's kind of like a mechanism for me, is that I sort of divorce from my feelings, and then afterwards it does all come rushing back. So it's not like, oh, this is a great way of dealing with it either, because it does all come rushing back to you. Okay. So just a key to remember that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you wrote that down.
Yes.
And then our fidget, or our floating around. This is probably if you're an adult and you have kids, or you're a teacher, or we work with kids a lot, this is what we see, and this is that anxiety in our children. So if you have kids in a group and there's that one child who's just can't sit still, cannot just bring their attention to one thing, cannot bring their body to one thing, it's all over the place, they're a mess, they're the problem child. This is their anxiety presenting itself in their body. All those signals from the brain are just all over the place, saying you're not gonna just sit here, you cannot just sit here, there's too much going on inside.
Your brain is demanding your body to react. So it's why it's so important to know how you're feeling, is because this isn't like, all right, go ahead and feel that way.
Yeah.
We're saying that if you know that you're a fighter and you're heading into an anxious situation, but you also don't want to lash out with somebody, you don't actually want to pick a fight with somebody, because sometimes fighting your anxiety, you're fighting or conquering what's bothering you, that's a good thing. But fighting can also be maladapted, where you're picking a fight with somebody to avoid the anxiety.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying, like sometimes leaving the situation can be a good thing, sometimes avoiding to not. So that's why it's sort of like, sometimes making somebody joke is a great way to distract, but sometimes it's not. So that's why this doesn't mean like these are all bad, and they're all good either.
Yeah, and I'm like, to add to that, it's kind of, if you can recognize your own, reaction, your own out of the 5 F's, then you'll be better to recognize it in other people. Yes. So if I am, let's see, if you faint, you said you're the fainter, you dissociate. Okay, what happens if I'm a fighter?
Right.
And we happen to both be in a situation where we're both feeling anxious, where our brains are both telling us that we are anxious. How is that situation going to play out between us? And
not well.
No, exactly.
Not well, yes.
And I guess it's kind of just goes back to the point of this whole presentation, where if you can take that moment to realize that maybe that's why you're behaving a certain way, or why your students, your children are behaving certain ways.
So how do you take it from this to the next step? And that's why we have more videos.
Yes.
This isn't just the end of it. So what we're going to do is, in one of our next videos, we're going to break this down to help you figure out what is your pattern, what is your go-to, how does the anxiety affect you and your body. So for some people, it's us there. So one of the things you want to know, like, does your anxiety cause stomach aches? Does your body cause muscle tension, headaches? Like, where do you feel anxiety within your body?
Right. Yeah, and it goes back to like the last video of kind of just breaking it down, like simplifying it of, okay, if you know when anxiety is present in your life, then you can know how your body reacts to anxiety, and then you can use the rest of our videos of how to be better at that and how to change your perspective. And
Absolutely.
all right, so
that's the end for today. Check out our next one about how to break this down for you.
awesome. Thank you for listening.